I'm David Black. I'm the Managing Director of our Project and Development Services practice for hotels and hospitality. In short, we are professional owners, representatives, and asset managers for the hotel industry. And then I'll turn it over to each to introduce themselves and their role.
Hi, I'm Balestrazzi. I am the Vice President of Americas Design Services. So I oversee design for all Hyatt's full-service brands in the Americas, so from Canada to Argentina.
Hey, good morning. I'm Paulo Mancio. I'm in charge of technical service, design, and construction for AccorHotels in Latin America. So we are in charge of everything of this responsibility in South America and Latin America.
Perfect. Good morning. Justin Ried, Vice President with HotelSpaces, Development, Design, and Construction. So manage everything from ground up to capital expenditures in our portfolio of 96 upper upscale hotels, basically one of the largest real estate investment trusts in North America.
So with that, what I wanted to do is spend a little bit of time from our JLL Hotels and Hospitality research to share with you some trends that we're seeing in the hotel industry. And then from there, I'm going to question the panel, and we're going to try to keep it as tight as possible. We have 50 minutes. And then we may have a little bit of time at the end for some question and answers. So there we are. There's the panel. There were 6. There are now 4. The global hotel market. What we've seen is that hotel transactions have totaled $40 billion through the third quarter of 2017. It's down about 15% from the prior year, but U.S. globally is remaining the most active market, with over 16 billion trading. RevPAR trends are slowing a little bit, but there's still 2 to 3% increases in growth. And domestic buyers are really taking the center stage. If you recall from last year, a lot of the transactions and activity that was happening from overseas buyers, from China, from the Middle East, from Europe, and U.S. market is coming back. So in that, REITs are reemerging. And so host hotels, I know they know where, when they are competing to buy a property, and we are a major broker of that as well, we're seeing 16, 18, 20 prospective buyers that are competing for one asset. And a lot of the ones that really are impactful are those that oftentimes are unencumbered by brand, where there is an opportunity for uplift or change, and then there's a big move towards soft brands. Hotel companies are getting more vocal, so they're having a lot more influence again. Supply growth is at a 7-year high, with new additions to the pipeline, though, are slowing. So it's creating some good opportunities for brands and management companies. And then some owners during this hot time in the business have deferred CapEx, and so there's some counter-cyclical project work that's going to be happening as the market slows. Where's the lodging supply happen? Here's the 10 largest markets that we're seeing for new development. As far as construction spending, we really have more subdued market growth because lending conditions are tightening up. Even though there still is a lot of money out there and there are still a lot of people trying to place their money, lenders are having a more difficult time with the underwriting. Construction labor shortages have been a big issue, and with immigration laws changing, it's going to exacerbate that. Some of the current impacts that are affecting your projects or owners' projects, costs are rising, so particularly labor. Consultants are spread pretty thin because everybody still is very busy, so drawing coordination is oftentimes suffering. There's strains on budgets, schedule durations, and CapEx cycles. The competition for skilled design and construction labor is key. I mean, I know we deal with that every day at JLL. I know that the brands and the owners are doing the same thing. We're all looking for the same people. So if you're interested, just give me a call. FF&E, yeah. Hey, I'm up here, you know. I'm the moderator. I can say what I want. So FF&E lead times and quality control issues continue. Construction backlog is high. And with potential restrictive immigration and trade policies, as we know, we're all very dependent upon international and global resources for materials, goods, and service, not just FF&E, but building materials as well. The pipeline momentum is shifting, so that China's share of new rooms is going down while the US is going up. The global average is up, but North America, the pipeline is building, and you know, pun intended, that's just too bad to even say anything about it. So brand and management consolidation, I think this was a big trend, as you saw. I mean, with mergers and acquisitions across the board, with the spin-off of hotels from Hilton, all the owned assets, there are a lot of changes. So over 1 million branded hotel rooms were involved in brand and parent company mergers and acquisitions, and 30% of those branded full-service hotel rooms were involved in mergers and acquisitions since 2014. So what does this mean? What's next? So hotel companies, bigger is better. As you see, you know, the big ones are getting bigger, the mergers are happening. Physical product, there's a lot of evolution in new brand development. So not just the big traditional brands, but many soft brands, lifestyle brands, and and that's creating some really exciting things for design and for the industry. It's also creating a lot of competition. Distribution channels are changing. Hotel operators are pushing back a little bit more, where they were acquiescing a little more after the downturn of 2008 and 2009 and into the last few years. That's changing a little bit. And then as far as the typical guest, there's no such thing as the typical guest anymore. You know, we talk about appealing to the millennial traveler, but there are the seasoned travelers as well, and those are kind of merging. So with that, I'm going to start with some of the questions. I think, you know, that gives you a little snapshot of what we're seeing in the market. So I'll first direct this. This is, you know, really a great topical situation that many hotel owners and brands are dealing with. You know, with all the natural disasters that have affected the industry recently, you know, how are you approaching like asset protection and damage recovery? And I'll start with you, Justin, because I know you have like 11 properties.
Yes, 11 properties here in Florida, 3 golf courses, not to mention Houston, Texas. We are not in the Caribbean, but I think my first reaction to that is planning. It's up front, it's working with the brands and your property managers, your engineering staff, before the storm actually hits. And that's really a key factor in this. It's also lining up your recovery team, and that's your environmental consultants, that's your recovery contractors. Those relationships really need to be in place prior to any storm of this event. During the storm, I'll tell you, it was communication. It was understanding that power goes down, cell phone lines go down. Maybe it's using WhatsApp and some of these other bases of technology to communicate, because we had a really hard time talking for 10, 12 hours with key individuals on what the status of the asset was at that time. During, or I should say after in the recovery, it was those relationships, and is currently now, with the environmental consultants and contractors that have helped us start to rebuild and get these properties back online quickly. We were very fortunate. Everyone was safe during those, all of our staff, everyone was safe, but it's getting those properties back online, which for a lot of owners, it may take months. Some of these hotels are out for a long given time. But it's been an interesting study for all of us, and I know in this past couple weeks, everyone was very much taxed in the United States with Houston. And as soon as those companies, we were dragging them out of Houston to bring them to Florida. So it was a tough
And now
time
with
for
the
everybody.
devastation in Puerto Rico and in the islands, it's
Horrible.
it's that much more difficult. I know at JLL, we were first and foremost most concerned about contacting each and every one of our employees, and I know the hotel brands, you know, and their associates to make sure they're safe. Many of them were dealing with their own personal tragedies and struggles. So at the same time that they were doing that, you're trying to be very sensitive to those issues while still understanding that it's a business to run and we have to be sensitive to our clients and to the buildings they have. Exactly. And then you were talking last night about just the issue of schools being out and people that you're trying to get to work on the projects, but their kids have no place to go.
It really brings it home. You're trying to open a hotel and, the kids, where do they go during the day, right? That's a real thing. Or, listen, I don't have a roof, or I don't have power at the house, right? You're dealing with some core, family issues, and we're trying to open a hotel. So it really gave kind of that life factor.
So, I mean, just, can't say enough, whatever you can do, whatever you can give to help those families, that would be great. So next topic, I'll start with you, Mari. With the proliferation of new brands, the trend towards soft brands, and the heightened competition for companies like Airbnb, what are some of the innovative approaches to development or renovations that you're seeing to achieve results?
Sure. I think Hyatt has a slightly different approach. Although we're a large company, we're actually a relatively small company by comparison to Marriott or Hilton.
Or Accor.
Or even Accor, certainly Accor. And so we've been looking at ways to sort of super serve our guests, really focus on the sort of the high-end traveler in each sector, and then looking at opportunities outside of sort of the direct hotel experience. So we've been in sort of acquisition investment mode. And
some of the wellness brands.
I was going to say, we've recently invested pretty significantly in wellness. We've purchased a Miraval, which is a wellness brand with 3 existing properties. And we'll see over time how we learn from Miraval and then begin to implement some of their programming and some of their branding, actually, throughout our portfolio. But we've also invested in an Airbnb-type platform with Oasis, which also is, it's a platform for very high-end homestays.
Well, and Paulo, I know Accor has been really expanding between, acquisitions like the Fairmont acquisition,
Definitely.
and then the home sharing,
Yeah.
So why don't you share with us?
I think that Airbnb is teaching us a lot of things. One of the things that's very simple and very basic is the real life. All of our approach in our hotels, in our projects, in our design is changing from the static, from the standards to be more flexible, only guidelines, much more energy on that. You know that we did the investment of One Fine Stay, is a private rental in luxury. We already did also the Oasis that we sold to Hyatt. So we are learning a lot of things with this kind of thing, and we know that this industry, everything is changing. I'm gonna have a presentation and how we are changing our things together, and in 2 ways, of course, is software and hardware. We are pushing a lot in hardware, but we need also to push in software. We just create, that's very connected with this concept, one big program of Accor that calls Artist. Everyone needs to be an artist, and with heart, with more, of course, with more human to human. So everything is changing. There's a lot of things going on, and I'm going to be presenting to you guys.
So yeah, stay tuned. Paulo's presenting later in the conference, and he'll share more of that with you. And I know that Host has taken some traditional branded hotels and has converted them to an unbranded, softer brand concept.
Correct. Correct. We've been pretty successful with that over the last couple of years, 4 properties in particular throughout the country. And really soft branded those and try to, I think the speaker talked last night about that contextual experience, right? And we've really tried to push that so that traveler, whether it's a millennial traveler or just one of us here in the room, that you're experiencing San Francisco, Philadelphia, what have you.
Thank you.
And whether that's artwork, technology, what have you, that's a big push that we're bringing to the table.
Definitely. Well, so with that, everybody in this room who may be supplying goods, materials, or services probably wants to know, what do you see happening with renovation pace of your existing properties? Is it increasing, decreasing, staying the same from the end of this year through 18 and 19? So this is a quick, easy question. So yes.
So I see Host Hotels, or we will be growing back to our normal capital spend rate of about 125 to 150 million a year just in our North American portfolio. So that brings us back to several years ago. We've softened out the last couple of years to let our properties, give them a rest, right, and give our, make profitability at the property level. But we're back on for about the next 4 years, really initiating a lot of the new brand standards with the bathroom conversions and new case good programs.
And I know we do a lot of work with Host, and they have a tendency to be counter-cyclical. So when business is really hot, as far as people are booking rooms and meetings and so forth, they try to balance out their renovations. And when the cycle starts to soften a little bit, that's when they really go up and take advantage of those times where there's less displacement.
Right. Yeah. I think that for Accor, I think that will be increasing for the next 3 years. And we also have, we are studying a lot of new acquisitions. We just did, as you know, Fairmont, Raffles, and Swiss Hotel. And we did in Brazil 52 hotels that BAG with a Golden Tulip rebrand. We're going to be rebranding into a Sofitel, Grand Mercure, and M Gallery. So I think that for the next 3 or 5 years, we're going to be increasing the numbers of renovations and the capex.
Mari?
Well, we just follow suit with our owners. So
Correct.
when they ramp up, we ramp up. But absolutely, I mean, we're seeing a lot of activity and not anything slowing down. So we're excited because it helps our product and helps our brands to sort of further develop. And
That's right.
we partner with our owners.
That's it.
So let me switch gears a little bit. So, we talked briefly, I talked briefly at the beginning about the trend toward mergers and acquisitions. So, as we know, Marriott and Starwood was a huge one. Accor and Fairmont, another one. Wyndham and Dolce, IHG and Kimpton. And then the spinoff of Park Hotels from Hilton. And if you don't realize, that's made Park Hotels the second largest REIT behind Host in the marketplace with, I think, 69 properties, all Hilton branded properties to start with. Right. So what impact are you seeing of this phenomenon on your business? And Justin, I'll start with you because I know it's had an impact on your portfolio, the balance of your portfolio.
The balance, and maybe my first reaction is to focus on kind of design platform and design program. And I think what the brands are doing, let's call it the Marriott Starwood merger there, is really focusing on the details of the brand and maybe the individual details in the guest room and really focusing down. So there's things like hard surface flooring that you're going to start seeing in the guest rooms, a stronger technology platform. They're really going closets. And so I bringing those two minds together, or the two groups, that's what I've kind of seen, that we're getting into the details and making a stronger product.
And I know last month I went to Marriott's headquarters and toured, the lower level, all, the different mock-up rooms. Now there's a whole section of the Starwood branded rooms that were under construction, but just seeing the differentiation of directionally of where each individual brand is going and trying to figure out that, because there is a real blurring. How about you, Paulo?
I think that besides of the acquisitions that we are doing, as you mentioned, Accor and Fairmont and all the ones, we just did 2 months ago the spin-off between AccorHotels and AccorInvest. Now we have a property company with the same ownership, but in the future we're going to be changing that. So we are kind of a reorganization of the company, and we are pushing a lot of and putting a lot of energy in design, in interior design. So as mentioned by Jade, I think that we are very focused on design. We are reorganizing those teams and to bring more flexibility and to bring more innovation into these brands.
And I know some would say with Hyatt, well, you are a smaller company, and I know that you've looked and you have acquired some others. Do you see the trend continuing of looking for opportunities to expand the platform?
Absolutely, and I think it's going to be within hotels, but I think it's also going to be outside of the sort of the direct hotel world. Related industries and what we call adjacent spaces. But I think you're right in terms of the focus on design and sort of really finding the swim lanes for the different brands.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a topic that we've seen. You've heard a lot about it. I mentioned it. There's been a huge focus on the millennial traveler and the related consumer trends and what they're looking for. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing that are having the biggest impact on your business? And then are you seeing big differences in what millennials are looking for versus the seasoned traveler? So I'll start with you, Mari.
I don't think millennials are looking for anything different than a standard traveler. This room, I think we all look for human connection. I think we all look for a destination that feels like I'm in a place and not just kind of a soulless, space. And I think we're looking for technology that makes our life easier, but doesn't, again, sort of distance us from people. So great, if I can check in on my phone,
Of course.
that's wonderful.
Right.
But I also want the opportunity to deal with an associate, deal with a colleague if I have a question, or if I just want that human connection. And I think millennials are the same.
I agree. Yeah, correct.
Paulo, how about you?
I think that one of the things that I would like to share with you that we just created a new brand that's called Joe and Joe's. We launched it in Paris, and it's very focused on millennials. But I agree with you that it's not only millennials. We are more international. We need to create some real life in our hotels, in our opportunities. One of the things that we are investing a lot, besides of design, is we just did a company of co-working. So many of our hotels in some locations where you can implement, we are creating co-working. So other stuffs to create more life and to create
Almost
more,
a quasi WeWork.
to bring people to our hotels, to create a hub in our hotels, to create connection. So that's the ideas.
Right. Interesting. I think we're really focused on, we talked 2 great points, gathering and technology. With technology in the last year, we've really focused on bringing that bring your own device aspect and being able to upload that to your TVs and interface that, right? Because we've all seen, and you can tie into the Netflix account in your TV. That's great. I'd love to do it on my phone.
Yeah.
And that's really, that technology is there, and we've completed that in a couple properties, and it's been very successful. The other is having a contextual experience for gathering. Right? It's a great bar, or maybe it's a game room, or something to that, to where everybody can kind of come together and people watch, meet people, travel to that destination and meet exciting people from other areas, right? So
yeah,
I think those are 2 pushes that we have.
Yeah.
I think, one thing that I've seen, and I travel a lot, is that, and I'm in the seasoned traveler category, but just because I'm a seasoned traveler doesn't mean that I don't want a lot of the same experiential things that a millennial wants. I think the difference with millennials is they're not as brand loyal. So it's, the capture, is sometimes more difficult. They want those experiences. They're also price sensitive. They'll look at everything and they will stay anywhere.
Right.
Whereas maybe a more seasoned traveler will, if they're, an Accor frequent traveler or a Marriott or a Hyatt, they tend to want to go toward that, and they're really trying to make that work. So I think that's what we're seeing.
Another idea that's very important, David. That's our approach is more focused also in local. So the people wants to go to Argentina, wants to go to Mexico or to Brazil or to Paris or something. They need to feel in Paris. They need to feel not a approach that will be for Amsterdam, that will be replicate to São Paulo, to Rio. We need to create something that is more connected with you, the culture, with the people that will be there. So it's very important.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. Yeah,
and
for everything, almost everything. Yeah.
So the days of old where, maybe on the select service brands there's a lot more similarity in a Courtyard or a Hyatt Place if you go from one to the other, and there's little tweaks that happen.
Right.
But on the lifestyle brands and even on the bigger brands, there's a lot more flexibility. I think that's for owners, that's really nice to see with brands that they're being more flexible in the approach to design and more creative with that. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's a big trend that we're seeing everywhere. So Paulo, we talked a little bit about technology, and I know that's been a big push for Accor.
Yeah.
So has, in your opinion and what you're seeing out there, has the hospitality industry discovered the right balance between, energy efficiency, costs, guest comfort and convenience, even whether you're going to do sustainable practices?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We are pushing a lot. We are putting a lot of energy, and we are investing a lot. But I don't think that we are in the right balance. We are inventing and bringing new technologies to South America. As you know, you have everything here in US, but we are bringing many new things to new countries. It's not easy to implement, and when you have everything here 100% ready, sometimes it's not so okay to bring to Brazil or to Argentina. So the balance is coming. We are pushing. We are putting a lot of energy. And it's also very interesting to mention about technology, because we have a big plan that calls a core big plan, a digital plan. We are investing 225 million euros on that. So on our big app, on the technology, on the air conditioning system, and all the big stuffs to our hotels.
And you started talking about technology as well and how you're trying to integrate that.
We're embracing that on the guest room level, and then you have to start at the baseline of the hotel, really, and that's your pipeline coming in. It's the infrastructure in these buildings. A lot of these from years ago were Cat 5, Cat 6, and you really need to take this to another level. We're bringing fiber to the guest rooms in a lot of locations to really up that, because our guests aren't coming with one device, they're coming with 3. And if it's a family, there's 12, there's 4 people, and everybody has one. I know my family does. We each have a phone and an iPad or 2. And everyone wants to watch Netflix at that time. When you get guest complaints, it's the buffering, it's that type of, I need this pipeline. So we've really focused over the last couple of years on that in all of our hotels.
Well, I think the biggest challenge if you're a hotel owner, and we're seeing this as owners are hiring us, is that they're looking for that return on investment for their capital dollars. Oh, yeah. But technology is moving so rapidly that it's oftentimes very difficult to figure out what is that backbone, what is that infrastructure that will give us the flexibility in the future. I mean, who would have thought, some of the things that we're doing today, would have happened 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, it's so rapidly moving. And how do you plan for it? And fiber is one major option. And it's not just as it relates to, the specific widgets in your guest room, but it's also the platform, to your point. Yeah. And I know that Hyatt has also put, a lot of focus on technology, simplicity.
Absolutely, and we're very focused on the guests bringing their own technology. I mean, that's really the answer. Instead of building technology into guest rooms that is obsolete in a year, I think it's all about Wi-Fi. Right. And it's all about electrical plugs. I mean, it's that basic, and I know that yesterday's speaker didn't want to talk about the basics, but truly it is about that. If you get to your hotel room and you can't plug in a device and you have slow Wi-Fi, you are not happy.
That's right.
And as a brand, we have not satisfied your basic needs. And I think that although we do focus on our app and things like that and looking to make, check-in more convenient and things like that, I do think that it's really just providing the platform for our guests to be able to do what they want to do.
I think it's funny, as in the early times of having that smart pad in the room that opens the drapes, turns on the TV, does the lights and everything, I admit I'm one of the seasoned travelers that wants to make it simple. But I was staying in this very nice luxury hotel. It was a project we were working on. Sound asleep in a comfortable bed, and at 3 a.m., all the lights came on, the TV
and the drapes
open, and I had no idea how to turn them off. It's like I just want to turn off the switch.
Yes.
Right. That's great.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly. So, one of the key areas that we're seeing that are impacting every project, it's FF&E. It's critical path if you're doing a renovation. And it is even becoming critical path on some new developments. So we're seeing tighter schedules, difficulty with long lead items for both construction and FF&E. So if you would, Justin, I'll start with you. Give me some of the top issues you're having in your projects regarding FF&E, lead times, shop drawing, prototypes, follow-up, manufacturing, everything.
Well, it's interesting. In the last 10 years, you've seen 16-week durations of lead times go to 22, and they're never going back, right? That's just the standard. So case goods, carpets, any fabric, that's how it is. So you really need a project management team that's very diligent and understands that the critical path on renovation is that FF&E, and it needs to be tracked with your procurement team, your design team, that shop drawing process. Well, we have failures in the delivery times. A lot of times it's really in the shop drawing process. It's the back and forth between the designers trying to get it just right and not understanding. That's a critical path, right? There's 2 people involved in that, and it's slowing down that delivery, right? We need to get it manufactured and on the container and to the product, to the property. But so we really try to focus on that, and it's tough, right? We want to do a mock-up for a chair, we want to do mock-ups for the carpets.
Yeah.
So it's a tough balance, but that's
And you want
a
to
critical
get
balance.
it just right.
Just
but,
right.
But if you go through 3 prototypes
Right.
and time is ticking away, you're going to miss your window. And if you in an existing operating hotel, there's no option to miss the window.
There is not.
No.
There
is
just
not.
is not. Paolo, and we've had some personal experience
Definitely.
together working in
South
Brazil,
America.
and you should share with those with the group, the differences in doing work in Brazil, for instance, versus the U.S.
Yeah, definitely. I have 2 big comments. The first one is more connected to Jay. That is when we are talking about management and planning, you need to have a very good communication between the management team and design team, because you are always changing. You are always trying to improve something that you're going to be touching the budget and you're going to be touching the schedule. So they need to have a very accurate communication. So we always put focus on that. Besides of that, as you just did the question, yeah, it's very important for you guys, for vendors, for suppliers, when you want to come to South America, to Mexico, to Latin America, to Argentina, to Brazil, and you are ready to supply to here. We have some vendors working with us there. That's not easy because you have a huge problem with the logistics, with important problem with the weather, to storage differently, the ways that we deal with taxes, and of course, besides of more this management stuffs, we have the installation. That's also not easy to work with the local labor, to understand the people. Even the language for us is an issue. It's not easy to be working with that. So be ready. Of course, we have a lot of opportunities. We have an important market, but you need to understand that you need to be flexible with the culture that you're going to be working with them.
And many times if you're working, in Mexico, a Spanish-speaking place, a lot of the business people in Mexico also speak English, and so it's a little easier to transition.
Yeah.
But with Portuguese, it's not the same. And if you think, wow, it's a big market, I could go down there. You got to do your homework. You need to have bilingual
definitely.
people. You need to find local sourcing of materials.
Correct.
Because otherwise it just won't happen.
That's it.
Mari, I know you lead the design side, so you want the perfect design, but at the same token, you gotta, Hyatt's the management company, and they're looking to you for your expertise and also to make the schedule.
Absolutely. So for our perspective, it's really about the relationship. So it's about getting in early, working with the owner, working with their designers, making sure that they understand sort of the core essence of the brand, and then understanding that there's a lot of pain in those schedules. And what can we do to sort of condense the time frame? Whether we can be reviewing, it used to be that there was a very sort of strict hierarchy of the process, right? And now I feel like it's all sort of shaken up and like what it is, it is what it is.
Right.
And I feel like what we do to support that is just, we provide that flexibility. If an owner wants to work in a different way, we're going to review things in a different way. And we're just going to try and work together to find the opportunity to review those prototypes. Try and stick to our guns collectively to say, these are the non-negotiables, the rest of it's negotiable.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the watchword really is flexibility, but also manage the details.
Yeah.
And
Very
because
important.
those details will either set you free or send
crush you.
or crush
Right.
you. Yeah. And to Justin's point, so we're seeing it across the board is that there is you can say that you have standards and you have procedures and so forth, but it's really to adapt those to the needs of that client, and more it's more difficult to work within a hotel environment than it is we do office and hotel and healthcare and industrial and everything. In a hotel, your client is really kind of a multi-headed client. There's the one that you've contracted with, which is typically the owner,
Right.
Okay, but then you have the brand at the corporate level. You've got the operations team at the local level, and then you may have a third-party asset manager, and they all have, a role to play, and you need to understand how to navigate that so that, because owner decision-making is another major area
It is.
to keep a project moving,
Yeah.
as we've all seen.
It is.
So, yeah. So with so much construction activity, Justin, we've had a lot of conversations
We
about
have,
this.
yes.
Across all project types, what are the biggest challenges you're seeing in procuring general contractors or construction managers, and even first and second tier subs?
I think the biggest thing is be flexible and actually know your local market. We're all over. I focus all over the United States, and every town is different. You really have to go in with the actual contract idea of, are you going to design, bid, build, or you're going to have to do a CM at risk? You have to be flexible, and every labor market is different. Projects are complex. Ownership-wise, we'd love to design it, bid it out, take our time. That's, it reduces our risk. The speed to market a lot of times doesn't allow that. Now we're finding it's expertise and labor in those individual markets. So we've had to be flexible. We're finding a lot of our jobs are moving to the CM at risk or our GMP on our highly complex. Only way to do it. So we get on, we'll do a bid initially with a couple contractors and narrow it down to obviously one, and they'll help in the pre-construction process. They'll be part of that team with brand and ownership and designers, and help us estimate, schedule, go through all those details, and then actually help us with the construction long time lead items, because we also focus on FF&E, but we also will change out glazing systems and mechanical systems, things like that. And that contractor, that pre-construction manager will help those expertise and on the procurement side of that.
Well, and I think what we see is there's so much competition for skilled labor in every market that depending on the project, sometimes you need to commit to that contractor and even to the first and second tier subcontractors in a way that allows them to know that you are going to do the project. Unless you totally screw up during pre-construction services, you will be our partner.
Correct.
And what oftentimes people don't realize, if they just hire a cost estimator to look at the project, they say, well, this is what we think the project's going to cost. And then when they actually go out and bid it and everything, they're dismayed at how the project went up 20% or whatever.
Right.
By having somebody on board as your partner, you can factor in the cost of phasing a job. You can factor in the mitigating risk factors of buying securing those, having a contract in place that you can secure that material and then assign it to the eventual sub. So
Correct.
Warranties, guarantees, all that stuff still flow through, but that you've secured the major elements and know that to the greatest extent possible, you're trying to manage risk.
And that relationship is great from an ownership perspective, is that you're an integral part of the buyout. You're there during each large package.
Open book.
Open book. I love it. I can report back to my executive team, to the board that, listen, we understand. Even if it is a cost overrun, we were there at every part of the way. It's interesting also, David, you added, what we're seeing is that focus in the buyout of key subcontractors. That didn't happen 10 years ago. Now that's almost a standard in some of our projects where a mechanical contractor, an electrical or a glazing contractor, we'll bring them on early.
I know for us, because we do projects of all types, we'll talk internally if we're doing something for one of our hotel clients. We'll talk internally in the given market. If we know that general contractor or those subs are pretty well tapped out, or they're not delivering in the way that you need them to deliver, we may say they are qualified as a firm, but we may actually go with somebody that isn't the lowest cost service provider, but is the best value for the project.
Correct.
To manage the schedule and risk. And I know, Paulo, this, things are done differently in Brazil when you're contracting for work. Is it tough to find good general contractors who understand hotels?
Yeah, it's very tough. It's not easy to find the people that understand the hospitality industry. It's normal with the office, with the residential, but it's very normal to have a big contracts working with the hospitality industry. So we are always struggling with this issue, with this subject.
I wanted to take a little bit of time that we can open the floor up for some questions, because we've got some great talent here on the stage that have been doing this for a long time. And I know there's, we tried to pick topics that kind of spanned different aspects of the development, design, and construction industry. But I'm sure, we had some other topics that we touched. We only have 50 minutes. We wanted to give you an opportunity to, to ask any questions or discuss with the team. So if you will, if you have anything for us, please do. Don't be bashful. Yes, sir.
Have you all seen adoption of BIM on either new construction or ongoing O&M projects or anything that you're working on?
Definitely on new construction. We have a lot of our contractors throughout the United States are really presenting that as part of the team. Obviously, the designers have to be part of that day one as well, but that's becoming a strong tool for the field and building, so definitely.
The same for Accor. Yeah, we are starting with that from the last 1 year using BIM, so I think that will be the future for using in the greenfield projects.
We're seeing it a lot more, as Justin said, in the new development, and we're seeing a tremendous amount in the healthcare field because of so many integrated systems and so forth that are so critically important.
It's necessary.
Are you seeing it though on the O&M side, being instead of handing a thick package of 2 inches thick paper, are you passing over a workable model to the operations and management team?
That would be wonderful.
Not yet. But I think about probably in the future, but no, we are not yet on this page.
We're not there. Yeah, it's in some cases that is still fairly low tech, and we're and sometimes the information is only as good as the chief engineer's record keeping in their office. I know that sounds crazy. So we've done a lot of work about records retention, and
We're getting better. Our team, it's not BIM related, but our company is really focused on, or you have those hard copies in the director of engineering's office. We also keep a lot of soft information on programs, where everything is in CAD. We have all that data in our computer files, which you would think we should have done that years ago, but that's really what our focus has been. That's the next level for all of us.
And
I think so.
I know that because that started happening, now many projects, they're being renovated now, and we've touched the renovation last time, and it's now 7 years later. Now we know that material is there, or we know who the architects or the designers were
All the way through.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the energy efficiency goals that are coming down? Or do you guys have some for the different brands?
I can tell you in a lot of the initiatives that we're working in existing properties, it's more efficient mechanical systems in the guest rooms. It's thermostat integrations with the door lock systems and making sure that total building management system is controlled on a guest level. Environmentally, there's a lot of solar initiatives that we're incorporating in our property as well as a lot of other ROI types of initiatives from an environmental standpoint on that energy.
A lot of lighting, LED.
A lot of lighting, yes, that's a great point. LED conversions, lighting system conversions, huge. A lot of our properties on their own, the engineering staff will do that as their own initiatives, but when we come in and do a global renovation, guest rooms, conference rooms, that'll be one of the primary items that we'll go after.
The same for Accor. Yeah, we are focusing on 3 initiatives: solar panels, LEDs, and air conditioning system. Always trying to bring something new, to bring something more productive.
Mari, is that a topic that comes up consistently? I know Tony is here.
I was going to say, I'm looking to my colleague, Tony Spada, who's really the guru on this particular topic. But I mean, we're often just following the lead of the owners, right?
Yeah.
If an owner is excited about this, we will support that.
Right.
And we have goals, but we have to partner with our owners in terms of actually executing them.
Well, what we're seeing across the board is there are different goals that different types of owners have. There are those who are going to acquire an asset. They're going to do what they can to provide some uplift through a renovation, through a brand conversion, through changing from too many F&B outlets to changing the way that operates so that they can achieve greater results. But their goals are not for a long-term hold, it's to flip it in 5 years.
Exactly.
Pardon me, so that has an impact on where that
It
is.
does.
So I'm
It
going to
does.
let people ask more questions so I can.
Yeah, save your water.
Yeah, so we talked about, I own a hotel. We own a remuneration of 5-7 years ago for PIP, or we talk about the transaction hotels, which people have shorter hold periods now.
Right.
It's being sold every 3 to 4 years, and there's a change in ownership. But transact 70 million to 100 million a year, which means the PIPs, maybe we're spending 10 million on renovation. Whenever I go to do that in my hotel, the old stuff, we hire an auction company, we try to find a church or something to donate it to the use of state, which sometimes don't have useful life. And I'm curious, on the brand side, why haven't we found a way to do that structurally? I mean, we have the Caribbean destroyed, we have Puerto Rico destroyed, we're trading out old bed frames, chairs, lighting that's working. Is there any way that you guys have thought about, a design and a build connection of how to do new products, send us a samples order in terms of vendors? What about on the other side? Helping owners find a way to dispose, economically and environmentally friendly of things which still have a useful life? Have you guys talked about that?
I know we spend a lot of time saying, well, how do we get the old material out of the building?
Right.
And in a expeditious way and for the benefit of the project. But obviously there are needs elsewhere, and there are a lot of companies that, that is their professional goal. We will take it off your hands and provide the labor to get it out, because the labor cost is usually the thing that sends the budget
does.
reeling.
Yeah.
It does.
But your point is well taken, especially given what we're seeing, in Houston and Florida and Puerto Rico and elsewhere, that, those goods and materials could have value. Sometimes some of our owners have tried without success to donate the material.
We have a donation program, and I think we tried a national program, and it really looks, it's localized because of the transportation, because we've had some in the local Washington, D.C. area, Habitat for Humanity, things like that, and we've had that idea, the same as yourself. And one of the programs we actually overloaded, because it was like, congratulations, here's 1,000 rooms of guest room furniture.
Yeah.
And it was great, but.
Yeah.
So, we try to, it's our first thought every time we renovate a hotel, what to do with its case goods and how can we donate, how can we recycle. There's a lot of, mattress recycling, and that's very much on a local basis as well. Obviously, you can't donate that. But it's a great challenge for all of us to get better about that. But we found it on a local level.
If we could find a way that the labor works, and that that is the biggest
think that's the
impediment,
point.
because
That's the point.
that's the biggest investment that an owner has, and most of the time that's not in their capital plan to associate a big labor cost. So they're trying to say, if I donate it, or if I give it to a company that reclaims it and resells it, they'll front the labor at no cost to the owner, and it's basically a giveaway.
Right.
But
Correct.
it may not feel as good in the system, but it's the reality of what's been happening. So
Correct.
maybe there's a new business model out there that none of us have thought about that would be great to start, a not-for-profit or something. More questions? We have a couple minutes left. We'll probably have time for one more. Yes, sir.
Start with capital, we're looking at some innovative ways to cut down on construction time and overall construction time, looking at modular construction. Just
Modular?
to know if anyone has looked into that, how far it's gone with it. I know that multifamily housing is using that heavily right now. It seems like it's just now trending towards the hospitality. So just want to know if anyone has tried it.
From my side, I think that we can share that one of the things that we are developing a lot in some countries is the three-star hotels that we have. The Ibis is the hotel that will be the most important numbers in China, in Africa, in Brazil, in Argentina, and many other countries in Russia. And on this kind of hotel, Ibis hotel, we are using a lot of PLDs. So, and it will be great for that. So very fast. We are using with gruas, so it will be really great. We have a program of warranty, and so it's doing very good.
I mean, Host and Accor and JLL worked on a project in Brazil where, you know, it was the Ibis that all the bathroom modules were manufactured
Caddies.
off-site and brought in.
Yeah.
I know I was on a panel in New York at the NYU conference, and there was a lot of discussion about modular construction. And I think that it is starting. The module size and the transportation of those modules through certain municipalities are oftentimes the thing. So they're having a little more luck on the, you know, the kind of the quasi-Moxie type brand, you know, the tighter room, the, you know, cool, but, you know, not big. And then there's the manufacturing process. There's not a lot of US-based manufacturers, so a lot of those are being done in Eastern Europe or Asia, and having to come
In
over
South
by
America.
in South America.
But it is in the dialogue, and on our new builds, on some of our select service new builds, the brands are actually bringing that to the table. We're talking to those manufacturers, because we're interested in it. The shaving of several months or months off of a property, think about the finance cost savings just on that construction loan alone is huge. But again, it's regional on that in the sense of you can't build a modular out in Phoenix, Arizona from a manufacturing plant in Ocala, Florida. It just doesn't work. But I've also seen some exciting new renovations, right, where we're actually doing the bathrooms and integrating those in there. So I think it's an exciting time for that. I'd love to see that technology go forward, because then you're building a lot of it. It's managed. You're somehow controlling and get a better hand on your labor. Right, it's in a controlled environment. Your QA/QC program's
Well, there's a
a lot better.
consistency in the quality.
It
I mean, we
is.
did pod bathrooms
That's
in Rio, and it was the same thing where you have a known entity that you're
That's it.
installing, and you can do all of the tweaks that you need to do, sort of like you do with FF&E.
Correct.
Right, and you have to fix it once.
Correct.
I think it could be a great opportunity if there was some U.S. manufacturers that figured that mousetrap out. Would be terrific. The other part is having the general contractor community and even the design community understanding how those things get integrated into a superstructure or into an existing building. So I think that's probably the challenge. I know we are out of time, but I want to thank all of you for some great questions and for your attention, and I want to thank my panel. I will thank John, Dane, and Nick when I talk to them next, but these are the ones that really made it happen, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. David, thank you. Excellent job moderating again, and thank you to the panel.